We're going to start out rolling the glute medius muscle. This muscle is right on top of your hip, makes a bean shape around the back side of your pelvis. We're going to place the lacrosse ball in between a wall and that muscle. Pressing firmly, roll back and forth and up and down to find pressure points along that muscle. If you find tender areas, don't be afraid to press into it and hold. Aim for about 20 to 30 seconds for that muscle. Then we will switch sides and do the same exact rolling on the opposite side. Again, we're going to push into that muscle, find tender spots, and roll throughout. We are once again aiming for 20 to 30 seconds. Now we're going to transition to the low back erectors. This one as well, we will be doing both sides. Stick to the bottom portion of those erectors beneath your last rib and above the pelvis. With this area, only go up and down. Do not go side to side. Avoid going across or on top of your spine. Rolling out these muscles, aim for a little bit longer, somewhere between 45 to 60 seconds. The goal here is to inhibit these muscles, to help them relax. Throughout the rolling, remember to breathe calmly. Once we switch sides, we are going to do the same exact thing for the same duration of time on the other side of the spine. Once again, not going on top of the spine or crossing over it, strictly staying on those rope-like muscles that run alongside your spine. Staying on the lower portion of the erector muscles, again aiming for approximately 45 to 60 seconds. Now as we transition into breathing work, we will be lying supine on our back with our knees bent and our feet flat on the floor. Make sure to stay relaxed and do not push your lower back into the floor. Try your absolute best not to use your musculature, specifically using the air as you inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth with your lips pressed together like blowing up a balloon. To help make this process easier, place one hand on the belly button and another on the upper chest. As you inhale, the lower hand should rise and the upper hand should not move at all. Once again, on the exhale, let the breath create the force, not the musculature. Through this exercise, we want to stay relaxed and calm. It may be difficult at first to keep the air in the belly, but do your best and continue to work at it. The breath should last for about 4 to 6 seconds as you inhale and 4 to 6 seconds as you exhale. Continue to repeat this process, trying to fill up your belly as big as possible and exhaling all of the breath out as best you can. Now we will transition into loaded belly breathing. This is the same process, except we're going to pick our feet up off the floor about 1/2 of an inch. Start the process the same as the belly breath, with a big inhale filling up just the belly, and slowly and controlled lift the feet off of the floor 1/2 of an inch. There is no need to pick the feet up any higher. We're just trying to load the core with a little bit of extra weight. If this process hurts the lower back or aggravates another ailment, you will want to continue rolling out the lower back or other areas that we previously have covered. For this process, we will take a deep inhale, filling up the belly, slowly lift the feet off of the floor, and exhale as we slowly lower the feet back to the floor. Next, we will proceed into active breathing with our rib cage. Now we're going to focus on filling up our ribs to the side. Think about them filling laterally. The belly stays tight. There will be no more breathing into the belly. That was just for a warm-up. Now, with every exhale, we will think about the rib cage going down, connecting to the pelvis as it stays tight even on the inhale. Think about inhaling, filling up the ribs out to the side, not the front. And as you exhale, those pinky fingers will feel the front of the ribs going down. Still, the lower back is not being pressed into the floor. We're feeling the ribs expand for 4 to 6 seconds as we inhale through the nose. And we will exhale, still with the mouth, like we're blowing up a balloon with lips pressed together as we feel the front of the rib cage go down. With every inhale, you're trying to keep the rib cage tight in front. And with every exhale, you're trying to create more tightness on top of that. Once we have built up strength in front with the breath work, we will transition to active loaded breath work. This is the same, focusing on the rib cage, no more belly breathing, and now we're going to lift the feet off of the floor again, 1/2 inch. This will be the opposite of the belly breathing. As we exhale, we're getting the core nice and tight. At the bottom of the breath, we will lift the feet. We'll take a large inhale and slowly lower the feet back to the floor. Big exhale, blowing everything out. Once the breath is at the bottom, pick the feet off the floor. Inhale slowly as the feet lower back to the ground. Remember, stay relaxed. The lower back is not being pressed into the floor. And we're sticking with our ribs expanding laterally as we bring the air in, and focusing on blowing the rib cage down in front on the exhale. This makes it a little more difficult now that we are loading it with the feet off of the floor as well. Now we will transition onto our side, placing our arm overhead and our top arm out in front for support. Make sure to relax your neck. We don't want any tension up top. Make sure to do 1 or 2 strong exhales to get the core ready and active before lifting the leg. Now we're going to lift our leg towards the ceiling, but it will be very minimal. We're trying to focus on that same glute medius muscle that we rolled on the wall earlier. As we lift the leg, we will roll our knee in, keeping it soft. We don't want to have a locked out knee, but we also don't want to just strictly move from the knee. We're moving from our hip, trying to feel that glute medius muscle as we raise the leg. Do not worry about the height you are lifting the leg. Focus more on turning or rolling the knee in, down from this position. This will help you feel that glute medius. As you continue through the exercise, it will be slow and subtle. Remember, exhale as you raise the leg. Inhale as you bring the leg back down. Do not let the leg rest as you bring it down. Simply tap the bottom foot and exhale to raise back up. Now as we transition to the other side, it will be the same exact setup. Arm overhead, body straight in line. Do not let the hip roll back. Top arm will be out front to support. 1 or 2 big breaths to get the core tight. Still filling up the ribs, still exhaling the front of the ribs down, and then exhale as that leg raises. Again, you do not need to lift the leg that high. You want to focus on keeping the knee soft and rolled in and activating that glute muscle to lift the leg. Moving on to the side plank with the bottom leg moving, we will set up in the same position, except this time the top leg will be out front at 90 degrees. Now we're going to exhale as the bottom leg rises and inhale as the bottom leg falls. This movement will be extremely subtle. Lifting the knee off of the ground with the exhale, it will help to feel the adductor muscle if you point your toe and roll the knee upward just a bit. The goal here is to feel that inner thigh or that adductor muscle. Keeping the torso still yet relaxed, we only want that bottom leg to move. The core should stay tight with the ribs staying down through the entire exercise. Exhale as the leg rises, inhale as the leg lowers. On to the other side, we are going to set up the same exact way. Top leg is at 90 degrees out front. We are going to move the bottom leg again in sync with our breath. Exhale as that leg rises, inhale as the leg lowers. As you can see from this view, the lower back is not moving. We're still keeping the ribs tight, and I'm only trying to move from that hip region, lifting the knee off the ground, pointing the toe, feeling that inner thigh adductor muscle as we lift. Next, we will set up in our hip matrix position. We will be tall kneeling, hands on our hips, and we are moving back and forth strictly from our hips. Our shoulders and hips should stay in alignment as we move. As you can see here, the spine is not bending. We don't necessarily have to coordinate our breath with the movement, but we are still breathing strong, keeping the core tight and filling up the ribs in the sides. As we move, we want to feel the glute medius muscle pushing and the adductor muscle stretching. As I shift to the left, I will feel my right glute medius pushing and my right adductor stretching. As I move to the right, I will feel the opposite. I will feel my left glute medius pushing and my left adductor stretching. This movement is very difficult and will take some time to understand. This is not necessarily a workout. this is training your brain to move your hips laterally, keeping the spine strictly straight and neutral, only moving through the ball joints of the hips. Moving on to the strength portion of the workout, we are going to transition into our lateral tube walks. This can be done with a band around the knees or just with our own body weight. I'm going to start out in a ready position, and I want to transition to my left or right, either way we're moving, and I am driving off the trailing leg. I'm using that adductor muscle and my glute medius muscle to push towards the direction that I want to go. Keeping the knees bent, the hips back, and the weight in the balls of my feet. I do not want the weight in my heels. I want to drive off of the balls of my feet. Think big toe weight. I am keeping my core tight, and I am working my breath through my steps. Make sure the knees do not cave in. They want to track in line with the second toe, or think I'm pushing my knees away from each other as I step. This will be much more difficult when we have a band around our knees. But if this is too difficult to start, do not use a band until the glutes and the adductors are strong enough. Now we will work on doing a proper hinge position. This is much more difficult than it seems. First, we will start by standing nice and tall. Feet will be about shoulder width apart or a comfortable distance. And I want to place my hands out in front like a plank position. Now I will slowly sit back into a light squat. We are trying our absolute best not to have our lower back round. We are keeping the low back and the spine neutral. Now I want to think about placing my hands on my sit bones and slowly carrying my hips over my big toes. As you can see, my knees are softened and I'm falling into my hips. I want to keep my core nice and strong, and I want to keep my weight of my body centered over the balls of my feet. Now we can start our breath and act like we are starting out on the ground, doing our breath work in this plank position. Big inhales into our ribs and nice big long exhales as we blow the ribs down. As we hold this position, I want to think my sit bones are trying to transition a little bit higher, but I'm still keeping the weight forward over my toes. I'm still keeping my knees soft, and I'm still keeping my lower back neutral. Getting parallel to the ground like pictured here may not be possible at first. Just do your best while keeping your back neutral and your core tight. When we're ready to stand, think about squeezing the glutes forward, keeping the weight in the balls of our feet and our knees soft. Next, we will work on repetitions through the hinge movement. I want you to take this extremely slow as we exhale to keep the core tight and go over the toes, moving from the sit bones. Big inhale at the bottom and a big exhale once we come back up. I want to focus on the exhales through the movement and inhale while we're holding still. Remember, keep the weight in the balls of the feet. Keep the knees nice and soft. Do your best to move through the hips, keeping the core tight, keeping the lower back neutral.